Just into CNN, the January 6th Select Committee has now received 2 years worth of text messages from right-wing conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. These texts first came to light when Jones' legal team mistakenly handed them over to the plaintiffs in his defamation trial. And that's when Congress got wise to the messages. Let's get right to CNN senior media reporter Oliver Darcy, who's here with me. So explain to me, Oliver, how the January 6th Select Committee ended up getting these texts.
Yeah, so they came to light during that defamation trial last week. And at the time, the attorney representing the plaintiffs for the Sandy Hook parents said that after he disclosed in court that he had obtained these messages, the committee had expressed interest in wanting them and that he was inclined to turn them over, barring a ruling from the judge that prevented him from doing so. On Friday, the judge said she was not going to stand in the way between Congress and those text messages. And now we're learning that they have been turned over by that Sandy Hook plaintiff team to the January 6th committee. Why did they want these text messages? Yeah. Talk to us about Alex Jones' role potentially in the events around January 6th. Yeah, they're very interested in Alex Jones, and this is because he was at the Capitol on January 6th. You know, he was seen on camera riling up protesters. He was a big person pushing the idea that the election was potentially stolen from Trump. Obviously, that's not true. And so the committee has expressed significant interest in talking to Alex Jones. They actually did talk to him, but he said on a show that he claimed the fifth more than 100 times. And so now they're going to see those text messages, and I think a lot more is going to be illuminated to them because obviously Jones was not cooperating very much with the committee. We don't know exactly what's in these text messages yet, but do we know who he was perhaps texting with? We don't know anything really outside of the fact that those have been turned over to the January 6th committee. But, you know, Alex Jones is a major star in right-wing media, so it would not be surprising if there are text messages between, you know, him and top players in that world in Trump's orbit. And he would boast that he did know about, you know, different inner workings of the White House and what was going to be happening. So it's very likely and possible he had some contact with Trump's orbit. We'll find out more coming up. Yeah, we'll see if there are any new revelations, especially as they return in September and potentially have more hearings. The January 6th committee. Oliver Darcy, thank you very much.
Any attack to a nuclear plant is a suicidal thing, and I hope that those attacks will end. And at the same time, I hope that the IAEA will be able to have access to the plant and to exercise its mandate competencies.
Сьогодні окупанти створили чергову надзвичайно ризиковану ситуацію для всіх в Європі. Вони обстріляли Запорізьку АЕС, причому двічі за день. Це найбільша атомна станція на нашому континенті. І будь-які обстріли цього об'єкту – це відвертий, зухвалий злочин, акт терору.
We're following some breaking news out of Georgia now. The 3 men convicted of killing AhmaudArbery are being sentenced on hate crimes charges. Travis McMichael and his father Gregory were both sentenced to life in prison today. In the next hour, William Bryant's sentence is expected to be handed down as well. All 3 men were found guilty on federal hate crime charges back in February. Now, the killing of AhmaudArbery made national headlines after video showed those men chasing him through a neighborhood in Georgia and shooting him in the middle of a street. I want to bring in NBC News correspondent Ron Allen and NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos now. Ron, I'll start with you on the ground there. Walk us through what happened in court so far today.
Well, for the first time, there was an apology from Greg McMichael, the elder McMichael, the father of Travis McMichael, the man who actually pulled the trigger, but who was also involved in the hunt for and the chase of AhmaudArbery. He apologized to the family He said that he wanted to assure them that there was never malice in his heart or his son's heart that day, and that he never wanted this to happen. And this is the first time that they've ever said anything like that, and especially directly to the family. This, of course, as Travis McMichael, then his father, were handed life sentences in federal prison this afternoon. There's one more hearing to come for William Bryan, the third defendant in this case, who was also convicted of several felonies that could land him in federal prison for the rest of his life as well. They already are serving time in state prison, and much of the hearing today, for the McMichaels at least, was focused on their attorneys trying to get the judge to sentence them to serve their time in federal prison instead of state prison, saying that there were death threats, that it was a backdoor death penalty for Travis McMichael to go into a Georgia state prison. They also pointed out that the Federal Department of Justice is investigating violence in the Georgia Department of Corrections and has been for a number of years. So that was what a lot of the hearing was. The judge rejected all that, ordered the men sent back to state prison to begin serving this life sentence and adding on yet another one in federal prison.
Danny, all three of these men had submitted guilty pleas in this case. The judge threw those pleas out. Help us understand that. Why did that happen, and how could that have affected the sentences that we are seeing handed down today?
A defendant does not have an absolute right to have his guilty plea agreement accepted by the judge. Anytime I have a client enter into a guilty plea agreement, I have that moment of anxiety because I still know there's another hurdle. The judge has to approve of it. And in this case, there was pushback because the family of Arbery was not pleased at the idea of them being able or being recommended to spend their sentence in federal as opposed to state prison, which is really an interesting thing because a federal judge has very limited power to even control where a defendant spends his federal sentence, let alone a Georgia state sentence. So all really a judge can do is make a recommendation. Normally, once you're sentenced, you are property of the BOP, the Bureau of Prisons. And in this case, because Georgia first got its, its procedural clause into these gentlemen, now Georgia gets to control their sentence. And only after they finish serving their Georgia sentence will they be sent over to serve their federal sentence. And the federal judge doesn't have a whole lot of discretion there.
All right, NBC News legal analyst Danny Cevallos, Ron Allen for us on the ground in Georgia today. Gentlemen, thank you both.
Heat waves sweeping across Europe this summer have brought not just record high temperatures and scorched fields, but new discoveries as well. The drought-stricken waters of Italy's River Po are running so low that they've revealed a Second World War bomb, as AhmaudArbery reports.
This is River Po, the longest river in Italy. But after weeks of scorching heat, its waters have been running so low they've revealed a 450-kilo World War II bomb.
The bomb was found by fishermen on the bank of the Po River due to a decrease in water levels caused by drought.
The army were called in and put to work. About 3,000 people living nearby were ordered to evacuate before the operation.
At first, someone said they would not move. But in the last few days, we think we have convinced everyone. The most important thing is for everyone to evacuate the town, because even if only one person is found, the operations would have to be suspended, with delays for everyone.
Traffic on a railway line and state road nearby were halted, and even the area's airspace was shut down. Bomb disposal engineers then removed the fuse from the bomb, which the army said contained 240 kilograms of explosive. The device was taken to a nearby quarry, where it was finally destroyed. AhmaudArbery, BBC News.
As we've been telling you all morning long, the Senate passed a massive spending bill yesterday. It impacts everything from climate change to health care. So we wanted to dig a little bit deeper into one element of the plan. We're talking about, of course, health insurance and how the plan could possibly make it cheaper for millions of Americans.
Yeah, well, of course, everyone knows that the Affordable Care Act provided benefits to millions of people who had never had access before. But there was a catch. It's the so-called financial cliff. And really what the financial cliff was all about is that individuals whose income was above $52,000, well, they did not qualify for subsidies to make the insurance premiums cheaper. So if your income went up like, a couple bucks or a couple $100, you suddenly were on the hook for thousands of dollars in insurance payments, right? So that's why it's sort of a cliff that people fell off of. Suddenly they couldn't afford their health insurance anymore. So what happened was when Congress passed the American Rescue Act, it included provisions to sort of smooth out the subsidy cliff. The funding provided more help to those who were just at the poverty line and increased the subsidy payments across the board. And that made insurance much more affordable for everyone. The only thing about it is it was temporary. So the good news is that it's going to be extended a little bit longer. The subsidy extensions were set to expire at the end of the year. If that happened, that would leave 3.1 million people without health insurance and raise premiums for millions more. This spending bill extends those subsidies through 2025. It's not forever. The House is expected to vote on the package a little later on this week. So it's a little bit of a reprieve for a lot of people who, were going to be slapped with some seriously hefty bills and may find themselves without insurance. I'm sure a lot of people would like it to go past 2025. Right. But you get a break at least for now.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, very interesting. We've got a lot of news ahead on CBS News coming up.
It's very bizarre to see yourself as you were.
Sandy! Teddy? What are you doing here? I thought you were going back to Australia.
We had a change of plans. Made it even more special for me because every time I do the show, I know I'm contributing to that, and that's my life's passion.